All right, so today's the day we cut into the GTR. At the first stage, we're just gonna remove all the body panels from the actual body. Everything that unbolts before we start getting into major surgery with cutting it apart and whatnot. So, but here's an interesting question I have. So I don't think they just used water to put this car out for some reason, because if it was just water, the engine wouldn't look like it's been underwater for so long. Like, look at the rust on these bolts, even the engine. You see all the rust and the paint, and like, it got hot, I get it, but I don't think it should be this deteriorated, right? Like, that looks like it's been underwater for a while. Anyway, if you're a firefighter, you know what they use on these cars to put them out, and for garage fires and stuff, like, that's fine, that's understandable. You know, it's just, it got hot, but it didn't melt off of it, you know what I mean? The panels aren't warped or anything, but even on the interior, you can see some of the melt that's happened on the interior panels. And just the car was wrapped and it sort of peeled off, but the metal underneath is still good, so whatever. Anyway, I don't know what they use to put these cars out. That's the other thing. If it was just water, so we hooked the scan tool up to it, and we have no communicate. There's like 11 codes on the car right now, but it's just not communicating to anything. So we'll have to address those when we get to the various parts of it. But for now, let's just do a time lapse and rip this thing apart.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school, so you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
All right, so quick little update as to where we are with the GTR teardown. So we pretty much have just been stripping out everything that we can unbolt from the car to get it apart. I'm at the dashboard now. I'm starting to get all the bolts and screws and controls undone to get it out. Everything on the front's gone now as well. I just wanted to show you the level of rust that was in there. So when we pulled the carpets up, pulled these styrofoam, I guess floor spacers out, there was still water in there. You can see the back of the amp and how oxidized it became. But look at the level of rust inside the dashboard. And I think what happened was that, yes, it looks like it was underwater, but after the fire, after the water was sprayed in the car, you see the plastic wrap that was on the top of the car. It was also covering the doors, and I think it just sealed it. And then maybe in the heat, it just became a giant terrarium and just cooked or rusted every untreated surface, even up inside the plastics, up inside the headliner, up inside the dash. But it doesn't really matter. I just need to find out why the wiring isn't communicating with some things, but I'll get there eventually once I can get into the core. But now we're just trying to get rid of the dash, and then we can start cutting it up. So now most of the unboltable parts of the GTR have been removed. We can get a really good look at how strong this car is. There's a lot of structure in this thing holding it all together, but it doesn't really matter to us because we're going to remove most of it. So if we take a look at the wheelbase of the VW, it's about 8 feet long. And if we look at the wheelbase here of the GTR, it's about, it's at 109 and a half, somewhere in there. So let's say 13 and a half inches for now. That means we need to remove the 13.5 inches out of the floor, because that arch there is pretty much the transmission cross member. You can just sort of see it through the hole in the floor there, the transmission. And that hole there is pretty much where the front subframe bolts to the floor in the front. So that just means we take the 13.5 inches out of the floor pan here somewhere. And the width of the VW outer edge to outer edge is 58.5. And if we measure the width of the GTR here, look at that, 58.5 as well. So that tells me pretty much everything from here out on the GTR I can just remove. So moving forward, let's remove the roof. Let's remove both side panels. We'll probably remove the back panel as well. No need to have that there. And then we'll cut the car in half, figure out the best place to cut the floor. We don't want a direct seam, right? We'll zigzag it around and do whatever we got to do there. But remove that 13.5 inches, and then we can start mocking up how the thing body is actually going to fit on top of the GTR floor pan. So now it's going to start getting crazy. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Thanks very much.
And now you've got yourself something funky.